like to do next is thank our sponsors that helped us put this together. And particularly tonight, some of our sponsors are going to be providing us with some devices that we're going to be giving away at the end of this session. So once we're finished, don't leave, because that's when we're going to have the drawings. Okay? So stay tuned. Our association sponsors, I'd like to point them out. And, without these association sponsors, this wouldn't be possible. So I'd like to thank them and call them up, and you'll have a couple of them speaking on the panel tonight. So you heard about the Metro Chamber. We are working very hard to start to make Atlanta the mobile world hub. So efforts going on now across many organizations, and you're going to hear more about that as we proceed. But this was an event we pulled together with help from other organizations. So, and then tonight, I want to thank Microsoft and Samsung and Sony for bringing their devices and showing them off. Quite a collection. I even had this old Samsung flip phone. I said this was great because it was the first one with a camera, so I really was impressed. So he said, where did you find that? I said, I got all kinds of. Anyway, thank you. And again, later tonight we're going to be giving away devices. We held off on the Microsoft giveaway, so that's going to be at our next session. So be sure to come back for the next session on cloud services to hear about it. So, even though this is the Wireless Technology Forum, we ask you to put your phones in vibrate mode. Not your favorite ringtones, just vibrate. Okay? And we talked about tonight's topics. This was a quiet event because we're seeing huge migration of devices, and I have the opportunity to introduce our moderator tonight. And even though I've got his whole bio here in front of me, I have to go back in time because I've known Roger. I think it was like this company singular around the turn of the century. And we were building a network. We were trying to figure out how to hand off between devices and the network. And this discussion came up constantly. Where do we invest in the intelligence? In the network or in the device? Where is the smartness of this? And this debate kept going on and on. So I finally concluded, because Roger was one of the top people in our labs testing and certifying and making sure this is going to work right. So I came away with the final for tonight. Think about it. It's not the last mile. It's the last inch. So Roger, take it away.
One of the few times, speechless. My past is coming back to haunt me. You know, you really don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. I've actually been thinking a lot how far we have come in a relatively short period of time. In less than 30 years, we have transformed, how we work, how we play, and how we communicate. And since this social gives a snapshot of today and what we really have, I thought it would be interesting to go back and look not only at how we got here, the different steps we had to take, but kind of look at what drove us here. Because part of the fun is not just getting there, why did we get here, and where do we go from here? I do remember, however, the first computer I ever had, or I ever worked on, it would be considered portable, only if you could move the whole building. And that was the norm. But we're a mobile society, and it wasn't going to be long before somebody found out how to take that computer with them. And I actually had one of the first, okay, we'll call it a portable. It was actually a luggable. And I remember going through the Atlanta airport, 40-some-odd pounds strapped to my side, trying to catch an airplane. The company did actually feel sorry for me. They also gave me a 28-pound mobile device, the Motorola bag phone with an extended battery so they could always get hold of me. Just imagine trying to get that to TSA today. It did get better though. As we moved into the 90s, things became smaller. You know, laptops emerged. IBM came out with their ThinkPad. We now had cellular, real 2G, where you actually had some data coverage. Said things were getting smaller, things were getting a lot better. However, when you leave your home or your place of work, your laptop became an island unto itself. You had no connectivity or anything. Your mobile phone, great device. I actually had one of the Nokias. You couldn't break it. And I know a lot of people who tried. But its data capabilities were SMS. So now you had SMS, and then you had a brick that you carried with you that you could work and then connect when you got to your location. As we moved into the 21st century, things really got better. Everything continued to get smaller. We rolled out 3G. Now, every device that had a SIM card could get mobile data. We moved through 3G, HSDPA, HSUPA, the whole lineage of different numbers. But everything did continue to get smaller. Your laptops got smaller, and the phone of the day was a Razr, a really small phone. And I was hoping it was going to go further. My favorite phone was the one I got from Nokia. They showed me when I was at Nokia one time. It was actually the size of a pen. Really small, you stuck it in your pocket, nobody even knew you had it. There were smartphones, but even up to today, everything was targeted at the enterprise space or the professional person. You did business on this device. It continually cut out the consumer. Well, what do they need to do that for? Well, companies finally figured out that probably the consumers did, because it was not until the end of the decade that Apple released the iPhone, and the iPhone fundamentally changed how we looked at data. Now you had consumers, kids, mothers, grandmothers looking at the device going, oh, I can text my, my relatives, and I can send pictures, I can do all these very interesting things. And it now opened up a gambit of different devices, different capabilities, different applications. Now it was up to your mind. What do you really want to do next? Now we move to today, and I love what the vendors did today because they gave you a very good view of what we look like today. Things are still getting smaller. 2010, Apple released the iPad. That was another fundamental change. Now you had different devices that could share content. You didn't have to worry about it. I want an email, there's my email. It could be anybody's email. It opened it up to a much greater group of people to use these type of devices. Now you have almost a ubiquitous coverage. You have everybody capable of having a device, whether it is a Microsoft smartphone, whether it is an Android, whether it is an Apple. It didn't matter. We can now move all this content around, and you can see all these interesting things. Mobile phones were becoming smaller, but we still had smartphones. The shift continued until 2013 or so. Really today, things are continuing to get smaller. Now you have the iPad mini. You have the Samsung 7-inch. You have all these devices. You got a little bit of a paradox now. Mobile phones are getting bigger. I still wanted my little phone. I'm okay with data-only phones. But now I have a mobile phone that's almost the same size as my tablet. Where are we going with this? What are consumers really wanting now, or do they want it all? And by the way, that traditional voice-only phone, I'm not sure you can find them anymore. There is some kind of smart in all the phones. But that's how we got here. What really drove this vision? And to believe it or not, many of the visions were not driven by technologists. In fact, the really bad ones were generally driven by technologists. The really good ones were driven by artists. They were driven by science fiction or fiction. I mean, who could have believed in 1946 that you could walk down the street and talk to somebody around the corner, 100 miles away, or halfway around the world? Well, you did. Dick Tracy, in January 16th of 46, came out with his first two-way wrist radio. Nobody even thought about that. But you know what? That's a cool idea. And look at all your TV shows. Star Trek. I mean, pick your favorite. Battlestar Galactica, Lost in Space. They all were trying to put together what they believed the vision of a connected society was. And in fact, Martin Cooper, who was the chief engineer for Motorola, cites Star Trek as the reason he invented the cell phone. And he can come back and go, that was my vision. I saw that, and it automatically came. How can I make that happen? Because it's so cool. You know, you look at Star Trek. The things that Star Trek did that back then were amazing. Today, they're doable. I mean, when Picard wanted to get Riker, he would just tap a button and Commander Riker, and it was automatically routed to Commander Riker. You know, or he would ask, where is he? We automatically had presence. They were years before the engineers started looking at it going, that's a good idea. Now, how do we actually do that? You know, science fiction, fiction, and the artists are driving where we're going with a lot of these technologies. We just don't realize it sometimes. You know, and where might we be going? I always like the famous, you know, kind of how I phrase it, you know, pick your favorite cheesy science fiction movie. And there's a lot of beautiful ones out there. And sometimes the worse the better. And remove all the actors, remove all the music, remove a lot of the backdrop, and look at what the geniuses of the vision are telling you about how we talk. I mean, people like Roddenberry, who envisioned how we should work, how we play, all these different pieces put together. That's what we're trying to accomplish today. Also, you look at things like, you know, I always pick my favorite ones, like Starship Trooper. Movie? Yeah. But I love the episode, the part of it when the news is on, and they say, so-and-so is doing this. Do you want to know more? And trying to tell, instead of telling you all that's going on, I'll give you a little snippet. You want to know more? Okay, we'll give you what you want. Customized content to anybody who wanted it. As I said, now you take your favorite science fiction movie. Where do you want to go, and what are they trying to tell you? Remember, you know, science fiction is now science fact. What we were thinking about 20 years ago, we can do today. You know, what we dreamed of yesterday, we are doing. The question now is, where do you want to go tomorrow? And with that, you know, now to give us a more grounded view into the future, what we really should be doing, I'd like to introduce you to our panel of experts to give us their views of where this future is really going to be going. I'd like to start off, Karen Truitt with Intel. Can you come up and tell us about yourself?
Hi, so, I'm going to call myself an Atlanta native. I've been here since I was 2, so most people give it to me. I started off, as many people did in this town, at Bell South was my first job. And I stayed in technology. I'm not really sure how I did that. I'm not an engineer. I'm a business development, marketing, salesperson. So I ended up at MindSpring, went through their IPO, went through their growth, went through the merger with Earthlink, and then I've now been at Intel for 8 years, focused on AT&T and Cox Communications here in Atlanta.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Lee Johnson, Microsoft. Please come up.
Good evening. So I think I may be the younger group out of the bunch. But I've actually been with the Microsoft retail store, actually in Lenox Square, since the opening, May of 2011. So I've actually been with Microsoft for close to about 1.5 years, going on 2 years. So of course I've seen the evolution from when the Microsoft Windows phones first started with Windows Phone 7. And of course there have been updates and a lot of evolutions on the actual updates on the phones themselves. So I will be able to share with you guys the piece on the actual ecosystem in which how the phones will actually work cross-platform with different devices as well.
And last, but definitely not least, sorry, I did not do my slides. which you should be happy for. And last but not least, Ian Laing, please come up.
We got a couple of slides.
Thank you, Roger. Good evening, everyone. I have been with Sony for about the last year, but I've been in the telecom space for over 30 years. I started out with AT&T Bell Laboratories, so I was one of those engineers trying to design phones back in the day. This industry has changed tremendously. And when Roger said we're experts, I cringed. There are no experts. This industry changes too fast, and too much goes on too quickly for anyone to be an expert. Pleasure to be here tonight. We look forward to talking. Okay, so I do have a couple of slides in the deck to lead off my part of this presentation, and I thought I would bring just two thoughts. One, this slide is being used by our CEO, Kaz Harai, as he talks globally about the relaunch of the Sony company. Sony has focused on lots of areas and lots of categories for a long time, but these three categories really form the bedrock of our going forward plan. Digital imaging is an area where Sony has historical strength. Our sensor technology is used in almost everybody's phones, even though you don't know it. Games, we just introduced earlier yesterday, PlayStation 4. So gaming is a major piece of our going forward value offering. But at the center of it all is mobility. About a year ago, Sony spent $1.5 billion to buy out the Ericsson piece of Sony Ericsson. That was a major investment, and that investment was made because the future of Sony is mobility. Now the next slide does an even better job, and the picture may be washed out a bit here, but what this slide shows is the confluence of all the Sony technologies into the mobile space. So what you can expect to see from the Sony Corporation going forward is the company leveraging our strengths in digital, our strengths in gaming, our strengths in display technology, our strengths across our product portfolios in the mobile space. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.